Today we are going to hear some encouragement from a piece of classic Christian literature. It's by Thomas A. Kempis, and it's in the Imitation of Christ, Book 1, Chapter 16, Bearing with the Faults of Others. Until God ordains otherwise, a man ought to bear patiently whatever he cannot correct in himself and in others. Consider it better thus, perhaps to try your patience and to test you, for without such patience and trial your merits are of little account. Nevertheless, under such difficulties, you should pray that God will consent to help you bear them calmly. If, after being admonished once or twice, a person does not amend, do not argue with him, but commit the whole matter to God, that his will and honor may be furthered in all his servants, for God knows well how to turn evil to good. Try to bear patiently with the defects and infirmities of others, whatever they may be, because you also have many a fault which others must endure. If you cannot make yourself what you would wish to be, how can you bend others to your will? We want them to be perfect, yet we do not correct our own faults. We wish them to be severely corrected, yet we do not correct ourselves. Their great liberty displeases us, yet we would not be denied what we ask. We would have them bound by laws, yet we will allow ourselves to be restrained in nothing. Hence it is clear how seldom we think of others as we do of ourselves. If all were perfect, what should we have to suffer from others for God's sake? But God has so ordained that we may learn to bear with one another's burdens, for there is no man without fault, no man without burden, no man sufficient to himself nor wise enough. Hence we must support one another, console one another, mutually help, counsel, and advise, for the measure of every man's virtue is best revealed in times of adversity. Adversity that does not weaken a man, but rather shows what he is. So when we encounter things that really steal our peace in another person, if we've tried to talk to that person about our concerns once or twice, then we need to be like Elsa and let it go. Pray that God will help us to bear those things calmly and with peace. And I speak about this as someone who used to worry and obsess over other people's lives, other people's decisions, other people's problems more than they would. I actually thought it was loving if I worried constantly about my loved ones. And then I realized that Jesus said he will prune every branch in us that does not bear good fruit if we remain in him. And what was that good fruit? Galatians 5 spells it out for us. And on this podcast, I talk about it a lot because it's so helpful to me. And the good fruit we want to see in every area of our lives is that love, that joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. If we are in a relationship and that is not the fruit, then we need to start praying into that. If we are in situations and we leave those situations being tempted to be jealous, being tempted to rivalry, being filled with envy or hatred even, if we're in places and spaces where we are tempted to have an outburst of fury, or if we leave there and we end up being sent into a drinking bout, then we need to let Jesus do some pruning. And that doesn't mean we have to totally cancel someone out of our lives or call them toxic. We probably need to cancel and realize the toxic things that we are doing and the way we approach those situations. How close can you stand to someone without spending the rest of your day having to put yourself back together? What responsibilities, duties, work, or improvements in your own life are we not doing when we spend our time obsessing over other people's problems? Chances are we are not perfect. Chances are our lives are not in perfect order. And so we need to start there. It's a loving thing to try to talk to someone when we see a concern. But if we talk to them once or twice and it's falling on deaf ears, it's probably time to mind our own business and live our own lives to the fullest extent possible. As Ephesians 5 says, make the most of every opportunity. Shake the dust from your feet and just keep loving them. It's not our job to change hearts. That's the Holy Spirit's job. So today's life hack is to embrace the fullness of joy we can have when we trust others to the mercy and, yes, to the justice of God. Dorothy Day once said, "The older I get, the more I meet people, the more convinced I am that we must only work on ourselves to grow in grace. The only thing we can do about people is to love them."